everyone. We are really honored to be able to attend this Select Chicago today. We are very happy to have a very, very special speaker today with us. Why don't we start with our speaker introducing himself in a few words?
Thanks, Justina. So my name's Graeme Speak. I'm a serial entrepreneur based now in Silicon Valley. I'm actually based in Australia, and the technology we create is cybersecurity.
Thank you so very much for being with us today. It's a true honor. My name is Justina Wiegand. I am a senior attorney at the law firm called Miller Canfield. Miller Canfield is headquartered in Detroit. I am based in the Chicago office. In addition to the Detroit headquarters and the Chicago office, the firm has 10 other offices all across the US. But our activity is mainly focused on international business. We have several affiliated offices. Our European hub is in Poland. We also have an office in Canada, in China, in Qatar, and in South America, several places in South America. And this is why we are assisting mostly foreign companies who are expanding to the US when it comes to beginning of their presence in the US, and then we are with them along the way. So thank you so very much for this introduction, for giving me a chance to introduce myself and for letting me be with you today. So today we will be focused on BankVault. And so Graeme, why don't I give you the floor?
Okay, thanks, Justina. So what I was asked to do today was give a presentation on BankVault as an investor pitch. And so what I'd like to do is go through my normal process, which is really just focus on the technology to begin with. I'll talk about that and give you a live demo, and then I'll go and talk about the investor opportunity and why this is a prime time for us. So let me share my screen here. Let's press the button here. Okay, so if all is working well, you should be seeing my BankVault or my login to my bank demo. Is that right? Great, right. Actually, Justina, you're actually muted. So if you can unmute so that we can talk. Okay. Yeah, I still can't hear you. I'm going to talk.
Okay.
Yeah, that's good. Great. All right. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to start, I want to go straight into a demo, live demo, but before I do, I need to set some context for this. So a little background, BankVault is a cybersecurity innovation company. We have 6 patents filed worldwide. We have several products in market. And what we've just released is what we think is a silver bullet for most organizations. This creates passwordless logins for users onto websites. So look at the problem. Most cyber attacks by volume are targeting our end user devices, PCs and smartphones. And the goal is to capture your login credentials to online services. For example, banking, your medical records, government records, etc. When a user enters their username and password and the asterisks appear on screen, this is simply a mask to cover the eyes of people around them so they can't see their credentials. But any software in the browser or the machine sees this instantly as clear text. Remember, it hasn't even been transmitted yet. And this means that if you're using something like a password manager, your Chrome browser remembers your passwords, or something like LastPass, OnePassword, the moment they load your encrypted password into the web form, it is no longer encrypted. It is now clear text and intercepted instantly. And so these password managers actually expose our password credentials to non-malware. And non-malware is legitimate code. It's allowed to be there. It could be a bit of JavaScript from something you clicked on 10 months ago. It's legitimate code. It's allowed to be there. It's not virus, and it can be looking at everything that you do. Now, there is nothing that the password managers can do to stop this. This is out of their reach. It's a fundamental design problem with the way that our browsers work. And so the industry's solution has been two-factor authentication. This is a really good idea, something that you have as well as something that you know. So for example, a banking vault or a Google Authenticate something off your phone like an SMS text. Now, this is another step that actually can be defeated. And once you know the techniques, these are actually very simple. And there's a lot of techniques. And I'll give you just one. If your banking, I've been in your bank account for the last 10 months because I got your login credentials, but I can't transfer the money yet. All I've got to do is wait for the day you load up a list of creditors to pay, or maybe a payroll. And the moment you do that, all I've got to do is change the bank account numbers behind the screen, maybe even move the decimal point. You authorize it with your fob, your Google Authenticate, your fingerprint, or whatever it is, and that money's gone. And if you look at it from the point of view of a balance sheet, the two most precious assets on any balance sheet is your cash at bank and reputation. And that's gone overnight. So what we've created is a completely new paradigm. And we were able to do this because we actually stumbled into cybersecurity from a different industry with a different frame of technology. We've created what is called an invisible keyboard. This is invisible malware. And with that, we can create passwordless logins. The key point here is that an organization with a website can deploy this literally in an hour or so. So let me give you a demo. First, I'll demonstrate the keyboard. Now, Justina, are you still there on voice?
Absolutely, I am.
Right. Now, the audience can actually do this as well while we follow. So I'm just going to type your name here. So I'm logging in. This is a mock-up of a bank in Australia. This application is just going to echo what it captures at the back end. So I've entered my username. Whatever I do on this model, I can't enter my password. Justina, can you see what it says underneath the password field?
Scan image to log in.
Great. So do you have an iPhone or an Android?
I do have an iPhone.
Okay, so you can just open the camera on the iPhone.
I just did. Okay, so it brought me to this website.
And does it create okay, so your phone now displays a keyboard. So just type anything you like on that keyboard. And every time you touch your screen, I'm getting an asterisk on my computer here. And so the illusion is that your phone is talking to my laptop. Okay, that's it. And I'll press login here. You can press return on there, and this is just going to echo. So I typed Justina, you typed Rudolph with your keyboard, and I've got the device signature of your phone here as well. Two-factor authentication is something that you have and something that you know. And we created that without you installing any software on your device and done in a way that was completely invisible to you as a user. So let me explain how this happened. I've got a schematic here, and we'll expand on this. So a normal web server projects a login screen into the user's browser. And we've made a cosmetic change. The cosmetic change simply includes a QR code with a security secret and accepts now data on a second channel. When the user enters a username, they normally enter their password and press transmit, and it logs them in. But we're disrupting that process. You scan that QR code with your camera of your phone. This sets up an encrypted WebSocket connection back to the web server. Nothing can decrypt this. The web server projects an image into the phone. You type ABC123, recreate characters at the web server. So characters are only created in the web server, which echoes asterisks back on screen. So there's nothing on the workstation that can ever intercept anything other than asterisk. You'll never intercept a password. But the genius level of this is that there is no keyboard on the phone. That's just a photograph. It could be pictures of animals, Chinese characters, anything. What we're doing is setting up microcells on the screen. And the only thing in the universe that can decrypt this is the session that set it up just a couple of moments earlier. So we create characters at the back end, echo asterisk is back on the screen, and this sidesteps every attack vector that can possibly intercept the password on the either device or the network. And if you can never intercept the password, that fundamentally changes the dynamics of cybersecurity. So let me build on this. There's your login screen, you enter your username, scan the QR code, we project an image, you type away, and we pass through the device signature. This is what they call identity and access management. This will log you in. But once you've actually logged into the other side, we can continue to use this. There could be other data fields, such as a social security number or credit card CVV field, which are sacrosanct, and you never want to have that intercepted. Now, this is all well and good if you're on a workstation. What if you're on a mobile or a tablet? how do you scan a QR code on your device from your device? The answer is you can't. So it works entirely differently. The user gets a normal login screen. They enter their username through their local keyboard. That populates the form. When they touch the password field, everything changes. We invert the architecture. Your keyboard disappears. We project the keyboard now into an inline frame in the browser. The user types ABC123, we create characters at the back end and pass through the device signature. There is nothing installed on the phone, and there is nothing to actually ever intercept what the password was. Because remember I said we're not actually typing ABC123, we're capturing screen cells. There are many characters to describe what that cell is, and it's an encrypted message. So this can only be reconstituted inside the web server, and this means that we can actually store that data online. It's contextless, meaningless data, and it can be reconstituted later inside the web server, but only when the user's mobile phone is present, with the optional extra of when the iris scan, fingerprint, or a screen swipe is there as well. What that creates is this. The user comes along, opens the camera on their phone, the workstation recognizes them and logs in. They never touch a keystroke. On a mobile or tablet, it recognizes it's you straight away and just logs you in. And the security on mobile phones is so strong these days that the FBI can't crack into a terrorist's phone. But if you need more, we have what is called proof of presence, your fingerprint, a PIN number, a screen pattern. The technology standard for this to authenticate web applications is called WebAuthn. It's an international standard. But to implement it is incredibly sophisticated and complicated. So if an organization was going to deploy this, you would need a team of people, probably there for at least weeks, and you'll need to retain them for the life of the system, in all likelihood. We've actually collapsed that down now to a click. Let me expand. From a user's point of view, they never need to remember or enter their user credentials again. From a hacker's point of view, there is no single attack surface, which makes this incredibly difficult to intercept. The surprise for us was actually discovering when we released this, that the first thing businesses want is not cybersecurity. It's actually frictionless logins for their customers, because that increases engagement and that is a business driver. Now, if you combine that with really strong cybersecurity, that builds trust. And so this actually becomes a very powerful win-win for any website. This technology also taps a major vulnerability in the password management industry that they can't address. You can never address that issue on the user's device. And this is where password managers sit. What we've done is effectively create the equivalent of this, but inside the institution, inside the organization. The organization manages this and simply deploys it as an image to the users. So if you look at the market for this, analysts, Gartner in last October said that by 2022, 90% of mid-market enterprises will have adopted some form of passwordless authentication in at least 50% of use cases. So we're going to see a massive sea change. This is a tsunami of change happening right now. Every major cybersecurity company is involved. And just if you look at these few on the right here, 6 privately held companies, these ones between them have raised over $1 billion investment to attack this market. The adoption today, if you think about how many websites you log into without a password, it's probably 0. And so this is a massive greenfield opportunity. Why is the adoption so slow? If you're changing identity on a network, this is a critical major project that you don't want to get wrong. And let's just use an analogy. If we're doing this with a university, you're going to change identity. If you get it wrong, the entire business is offline. So to make sure that doesn't happen, you're going to need a capable team of people completely focused on doing this properly. You're probably going to have a data migration involved. There might be extra infrastructure required. And once you've done that, you've now got to deploy software, client software to maybe 30, 40, 50,000 users. Then you've got to teach them how to actually use it and educate them. And if you're a large institution with millions of users, this is physically impossible. You can never do it. Scarcest resource is actually the technical manpower to do this. And this is the problem that we've solved. So the solution, you can deploy our technology in 20 lines of code. A front-end programmer could implement this in 20 minutes, but let's say give them a couple of hours. That's the job. We aren't changing username passwords. Every website on the planet today uses username passwords. The backend servers really don't get hacked. It's always the end user's devices. In our model, there is no client software to install, and there is no user setup. The users already know the username password. And so there is no change management project. If you're going to deploy it, and this is a model of our typical sales cycle here, we're trying to convince an organization to just try it out, actually just experiment. And to do that, you need to integrate it with your web server. Give the guy a couple of hours. In contrast, our competitors are taking weeks just on this step here. Once you've set it up, we're just setting up a test login page on a different web address. That's all it is. Don't give it out to anybody, just keep it internal. Keep it a secret. Evaluate it internally within your own office. Once you've done that for a few days, give it out to a few choice customers for feedback. Once you've done that, roll out a pilot, maybe to 1,000 users. And if that's successful, just keep rolling it out in a canary rollout, 1,000 users at a time until everybody is live. The work involved between each of these steps is exactly zero. There is no technology risk. The worst thing that could possibly happen is that the system doesn't work, in which case the users in a microsecond get their normal login screen. And there is no security risk. This is the user's normal data input. What we've done is separate it out and actually encrypt it. So we can compete now at the top end of the market in a way where we're literally going to be 10 to 100 times faster to deploy. But more so than this opens up a much larger market, what we call the long tail of the market of all the smaller organizations and enterprises that just don't have the capacity to actually onboard this sort of technology normally. So that's the technology. Before I go and talk about the investment, what I'd like to do is give you a little demo. This is it working. So if I open up the camera on my phone, and I've been here before, so the system understands that I am myself. I'm going to go in, I'm going to scan the QR code with my phone. I'm going to hold the phone up the screen. It's recognized me. I'm going to say, just confirm. My screen fills with asterisks and logs me in. There's nothing installed on my workstation, and there is nothing installed on my phone. Okay. But you see, maybe we should now talk about the investment. Would you like to ask any questions? I'll go through a few slides here, but you're welcome to ask or interrupt any time at all. And if you've got any questions on the technology, happy to answer those as well.
Thank you.
Yeah, hi guys, this is very interesting. So the keyboard on this, there's a little bit of theatrics involved in here to make the user think they're just typing something in, but they're not actually typing something in?
More or less, yes. But it's so intuitive that the user just instinctively sees it. Like, literally it's going to be your organization's branding on their phone the first time. That's it. And so what I should say in that demo, let me just go here. Here we go. So we suggest that you just put it up there as an option. So the deployment is by osmosis. The thought experiment would be, say, a university. Okay, so the guys in the university have been thinking about this for a few weeks. They're happy. 4 o'clock in the afternoon on Friday, they decide to deploy it. They click a button. From now on, the login screen includes a QR code, and it says 3 words: scan to log in. Monday morning, everybody comes in, and if I come in, I sit down at my computer, and I'm in a hurry. Right? I'm not going to look at anything. I'm just going to log in with my normal username and password. Tuesday, I do the same. By Wednesday, I come along, and I've got a bit of time, and that thing has been there for the last week. I'm curious about it. Now, I trust my institution. So I'm going to open the camera on my phone and scan the QR code, just the same as I would in a restaurant. And up on my phone pops up the logo, the branding, the colors, the font, everything of my institution, asking for my username and password. Now, I trust my phone and I've not installed anything, and I've initiated that transaction. So I enter my user credentials through an invisible keyboard. So nothing on my device can ever intercept that. And my workstation logs in. It's completely intuitive, and it just logs me in. From now on, I never have to type anything. It will just log me in automatically every time. And it does that without anything installed, and there's no setup.
So this protects me from software on my devices that might steal my password, but it doesn't protect my password if it's downloaded from the corporate servers, though.
No, we're not addressing that problem. Okay, we're assuming in most cases, it's incredible, unless an organization has done something really inept, the servers should never be exposed to the internet, period. On any well-run network, that just doesn't happen. You know, banks' servers are never exposed to the internet, and no one else should ever be either. So that is not the problem that we're addressing. Our technology is addressing the issue of the end user's security. And this is what the organization's got no control over. Your bank has no control over what software you got installed on your phone or PC, or who you might inadvertently have shared it out with. Now, even if your devices are compromised, this technology, without you installing anything, actually thwarts that attack. Those attackers can never intercept your user credentials and therefore can never take over your account.
What about collect? Oh, go ahead.
Sorry. Okay, right. I'll just keep talking.
So if I may ask just one question on the Security Act. What about personal data of users? Is your software storing, collecting, processing, and the personal data of users, like data which would, for instance, that the password that I am putting in?
Yep. So that's a good question, and that brings up things like the GDPR in Europe and California privacy protection or consumer protection. No, we aren't a problem in that area at all. What we are collecting is contextless, meaningless data. There is no references to who it relates to or what it is. And this can actually be stored inside the institution, or we can store it on the internet. It actually doesn't make any difference. So there's no risk, and there is no, that's why I said earlier, there's no security risk here, and there's no technology risk. And if somebody was to intercept your phone or the web server or the data store, like individually, even in partly connected up, you still cannot decrypt this data. So the foundation of this, the principles involved, are actually incredibly sound, which is why we're able to publish the patent on how it is actually done. It's a very sound principle.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Yeah. So talking about the investment side. So as I said, we're not just a brand new startup. We've actually got some very sound technology, 6 patents filed worldwide. And we just learned this week that 2 of them have been granted, or approved, I should say. So it takes a few more weeks to go through. We are raising a further seed stage investment right now. I'm calling it seed because from the principle of this is a brand new product. It was built on our previous technologies, assembling these in a different way for a new market. It's a much bigger market, but this is brand new. We've released this only a couple of months ago. We couldn't talk about it until the patent was actually filed and completed. We launched it a couple of hours later at a Cybertech event in New York and won first place, which was fantastic. That was our launch. And what we're raising right now is a super seed round, anything in the range of 2 to 5 million. And we want to close this pretty quickly because this is all about now expanding the sales. And the moment we've got the sales expansion up, we want to do a Series A, and it's a fairly large Series A, and there's a reason for this, and it's justifiable. And that would be hopefully in the first half of next year. So,
what level of investment are you seeking?
So we are at this stage looking for probably micro VC, super angel, or a well-connected angel. in that size round of a few $1 million, you don't want to take on a lot of investors. The stage that this is at is absolutely validated. The market opportunity is enormous, which I'll show you in just a second. And so what we're wanting is investors that actually can really add value as well with their network as well as their money. This is a really good round to come in at, because the moment we do that Series A next year, this is at a much higher valuation. This is the moment of the tick up right now. And I've got a table here of some of the competitors and just trying to differentiate. In simple terms, we are lighter, faster by an order of magnitude or 2 orders of magnitude. This is our competitive edge. To talk about, I just want to focus on the comparison at the right-hand side there, Auth0 and BankVault. Auth0 we think is the closest we can find to a direct competitor. In simple terms, if you're implementing this, and my former CTO is actually implementing Auth0 at one of his in his business now, they've been at this for weeks, have not yet done the migration. Our comparison is really to do this within a few hours. They target the developers. The website is actually really focused on the developer community. We can approach the same community, but we can also approach management through our marketing as well. They simply took a $120 million round about 2 weeks ago, which valued them, well, total market cap now is $1.92 billion. And by comparison, you can see that we're a tiny, tiny company by comparison, but with a formidable technological edge. And this is our opportunity. So in terms of upside potential, this is why we are a plum target right now. The competitive pricing in the market for an internal enterprise staff person sits around the $3 to $5, and you've got a high cost of deployment. What we're doing here, the cost of hosting is insignificant. Our users are connecting for a blink and then they're gone. It's literally a microsecond and they're gone. So a small system can support and basically scale to any size. So we can not only do the internal staff within an enterprise, but we can also do the free users that actually might be hitting a website to create accounts. It could be medical booking system, or it could be government department, it could be a shopping site. The killer here is that you can literally just deploy this overnight without any effort and without any risk. The revenue model is a SaaS revenue model. Businesses pay us for the service based on monthly or yearly or based on the number of users, depending on which way we want to slice that up. The market is growing exponentially, and cybercrime is outstripping the cybersecurity. There is no question about this. So it's a growth market, it's a rising tide. The problem is not going away, it's only getting worse. The niche within this that we focus on is called Identity and Access Management, IAM. And these figures here are old figures, and what is generally considered as the coronavirus has accelerated this significantly. So in terms of the go-to-market, the product is built, it is operational now, and if anybody wants to try this out, we can actually organise that this afternoon, and they can be operational. In fact, the invitation is if anybody watching this actually wants to test drive, let's set up the test drive with your website. It won't take much. You're just setting up a test login page. And this demonstrates our sales cycle. Just try it out. Get your front-end programmer to just make another web login page as a demo, do the proof of concept, give it out as a pilot, and then go live. The threshold to go through each of these steps is incredibly low. From a sales point of view, if we are receiving inbound sales inquiries, to take this through the sales cycle is really low touch for the sales executive. It's literally a check out each week to see what they've gone up to. We've done this now time and time again with organisations around the world in the last couple of months. But the day that an organisation wants it branded with their logo, their colours, their font, that's when they start paying us. And it's a really natural incentive. Just from pride point of view, no bank is going to want to see BankVault demo on their clients' phones. So obviously they're going to pay us at this point. Now, banks are not our target. I mean, they could be, they probably should be, but we know the sales cycle for a bank is going to be a couple of years. Our target to start with is small independent software vendors. And these aren't all small. We have, because we're talking on video publicly here, I don't want to name names, but we have, for example, our smallest client right now is a small business management system for pharmacies in Australia. Our largest SaaS is a massive institution here in the US that manages payroll and insurance. So the spectrum there is actually quite broad. There is marketplaces. For example, Salesforce is an entire ecosystem. We have competitors on the Salesforce App Store. We've started the process of actually becoming accredited for this as well. It's just a function of time. And of course, the large institutions, their sales cycles here are much, much longer, purely because of there's many decision makers. What we're raising money for right now is this go-to-market. We are sitting here looking at expanding our marketing here in the US, but this is actually going to reach globally. We have the marketing guy, he's actually my chairman's former head of marketing, and we know the strategy. That is going to support inbound salespeople who simply can nurture the leads. We have some senior executives between here and Europe that are actually starting to promote this through their networks right now. And we're signing up sales partners. We've actually signed up our first officially in the UK. It's a team of former cybersecurity entrepreneurs that have come together to actually sell our technology through Europe. And there's a number of others reaching as far as Japan as well that we're in different stages with. Whatever we take in investment right now is basically going into sales. That's it. It's sales and marketing. It's driving revenue, because what we want to do is hit these highlights here. Now, these financial projections are aspirational. Obviously, we're at an early stage. What I'm indicating here is that the market is so vast and we have such a strong competitive edge in here that we can pick up the biggest sector of the market that the others, our competitors, can't. And these are the smaller organisations that just don't have the resources to do this. And our cost of goods sold here is really quite trivial. And most of this red lines here is actually what we're sharing. Some of the examples I've got here of companies that are going at different stages with this right now, from anywhere from Hungary to the UK to Australia to through the US. Healthcare seems to be a standout. About 20% of our pilots going live right now are actually in various forms of the healthcare industry. And healthcare economically is a major section of the economy. And there are literally thousands of healthcare businesses within that. It's very well funded and is mandated that HIPAA compliance, you must be protecting your data and your customers' information. I'm going to talk just for a second about insurance. Lockton is one of the ones I'm going to highlight. Lockton, one of our investors, is a director of Lockton, so we've had a relationship with Lockton's now for a while, talking to their senior executives in cyber, anywhere from Hong Kong to London to New York. Everyone's interested. This is the largest privately held insurance broker in the world. And their exposure is if their customers have their accounts taken over. IBM wrote a report about 3 weeks ago, which was basically saying account takeovers is such a rabbit hole. If your CEO's account is taken over, it's no telling what the damage to an organization can be. Their point of view, we actually mitigate that problem for their customer. And in doing so, we reduce the portfolio exposure for them. And they think that the argument for this is so strong that the underwriter will actually even pay for it, pay BankVault, the BankVault implementation.
Graeme, in the meantime, we got a few questions, if you don't mind me interrupting.
Yes, absolutely, yes.
So the first question is about the HIPAA compliance. So the question reads, like, Michael wants to know whether your application is HIPAA compliant.
So we don't have to be HIPAA compliant. We're not storing anything of any consequence, anything that's referenceable. But what we do is we help an organization become HIPAA compliant. It's actually the organization storing the data, the user's data, that needs to be HIPAA compliant. And so that's why the organization needs to use cybersecurity technology like this.
Thank you. And the other question is about the way you are making money. I know that it was addressed, but if you could summarize, so the question
Yeah,
is.
that's great. So we make money. We're a SaaS service. Customers actually pay us either on a monthly basis or on an annual basis for usage. We can track usage by the number of users that are actively using the system. We can count that. Or we can just give a flat fee. A larger institution is more likely to just say, we'll just pay you $100,000 a month. And we don't want you to track who our users are or anything. We don't track users, but actually count them. We eliminate the accounting issues there. A large bank, for example, is literally just going to make it a flat fee. But a small SaaS provider might actually prefer to charge on active users that they know, because they monetize each user individually. So we can slice and dice it any way that actually suits. And we can also split it up so that we can separate out the high value internal staff member from an external visitor to a website, which may or may not be monetized at all. You've got a very broad spectrum of scenarios, and we're lucky that our fundamental cost base on this is next to zero, so we can be creative. There's a lot of angles on how to approach that.
Thank you.
All right, so let me just a couple more slides to go. As a team, my team and I have been together for a decade, and Neil Richardson, my CTO, has been with me for 9 years of that decade. There's other people that are not listed on here because you want to keep the pitch deck pretty light. On the right-hand side, Ben Lyon is the president of the Silicon Valley Association General Counsel. So he's a general counsel, well-connected man in Silicon Valley. He's very actively involved in my business. I'm only announcing this for the first time publicly right now, and we'll make an announcement about this afternoon. Whitfield Diffie has joined us as an advisor and stakeholder. So Whit Diffie and Martin Hellman created a thing called the Diffie-Hellman Key Exchange. This is the foundation of virtually everything that goes across the internet today in an encrypted form. The moment your mobile phone browser connects to YouTube, for example, it's using Diffie-Hellman. Hellman and Diffie won the Turing Award 5 years ago. This is like the Nobel Prize of the computing industry, $1 million prize plus fame. And what's interesting here is that Martin Hellman, Diffie's partner, actually joined our competitor Beyond Identity. And Diffie, we got, so this is announced today. So it's a bit of a coup. He's an industry icon, and very grateful to have him actively involved. Ted Egan, co-founder of ThreatMetrix, an Australian cybersecurity company. These guys sold out 2 years ago for $830 million. Brett Looney is our largest high net worth entrepreneur investor from Australia. David Morawski, another high net worth tech entrepreneur as well. David's software runs in every IBM mainframe on the planet today. So just to wrap up, we're not just a website with a cool idea. We have deep technology. There's a number of innovations here. As I said, 6 patents. We have products in the market. We have products that we've built and not yet released. But as an under-resourced small company, we know that we need to focus on doing just one thing. And so our one thing is passwordless authentication. This is a really big opportunity, and we need to execute it properly. So that's the focus. And the catch cry is you can't hack something that doesn't exist, because it's just an illusion. There isn't anything there.
Graeme, thank you so very much. If I can ask you a few questions, and then if in the meantime we get any questions from our audience, we will address them as well.
Yep.
You mentioned patents that are pending. What made you opt for patent protection
That's great, and this is a really lovely one. Investors want to see patents. They want to see IP protection. They want to see barriers. The principles that we've created, and there's a lot of them. We haven't patented all of our ideas. That's too expensive. These are really sound principles, and so we can actually publish them. And the techniques involved like if you were to read the patent on Passwordless, it started at 85. Well, it is 85 pages long plus diagrams. It's really involved, and yet the principle is demonstrated there. The secret, trade secrets around how we actually do some of these things is not published. So it's actually very difficult. Nothing's impossible, but it's very difficult. There are barriers to actually somebody else trying to reproduce it. They probably have to do it in a different way. And that means you're going to have, even if you throw 100 people at it, it's going to be your top 1 or 2 people that actually are leading that. And they have to go through iteration after iteration in order to build it so it's hardened and massively scalable. There's no way you can accelerate that process. So that's the barrier to entry. And look, you can go through that and you can produce that. And one of the big prospects that we had or have right now looking at deploying this was saying to us in our second meeting, why don't we just implement WebAuthn ourselves? It's a standard. Well, you can. You'll need a few guys. They're going to need to learn it. You've got a lot of project work to do there. They'll be there, as I said, for at least weeks. It's months. And then you're going to need to retain them for the life of the system. Or you could implement this in 20 minutes and literally flick the switch. That's our value proposition. We make it easier, more available. Yeah.
So to me, all that you've said sounds like a complete game changer for the industry. Would you agree with that?
It absolutely is. Passwordless authentication is coming like a tsunami right now. The industry players are trying to do everything. I mean, you could look at the large players like Microsoft, Okta. These companies have to do all the devices, the servers, the applications, the web applications, like everything in every organization. And every organization is complex and involved. And there are so many bottlenecks on there. What we've done is actually cut through the Gaudian knot. We're doing one thing. It's a really big thing. That is web. And most things are now going to web. Web is actually really good. You develop it once and it works on any device. So this is why you're seeing this massive swing towards web applications now. That will keep growing. This is a steamroller. And I think what we've got here stands out so far in front. It is literally orders of magnitude simpler and faster to deploy. So that is game changing. And the competitors that we're looking at can't address the smaller end of the market. And this is what marketeers call the long tail, which collectively that's larger by far than the top end of the market. And this is what we open up. And so what we're raising the money for now is really to be able to tap on that. If I contrast us with, say, Auth0, which is the example I was giving, it was very deliberate. They're targeting end users with a self-service portal. They'll generate the code for you. I'll give you plenty of examples. They're really educating the developers so the developers can play with it, get used to it, and then take it to the management. What we're doing can actually provide management or the developers with a self-service portal that can be up and running, honestly, in about 10 minutes. That's game changing. Yeah. That's our competitive edge right now. And what we're raising the money for is to get to the market really fast. This will be a crowded market, no question. It's going to be a really big market, and it's an expanding balloon. The cyber problem is not going away. So it's a great opportunity. See, it's exciting. This is, yeah.
And thank you so very much for sharing all this with us today. When it comes to pitching to investors, what kind of reaction have you observed to investors that you've pitched to? Because you've already mentioned that you've been really successful and you got some really big players invest in BankVault, but could you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so we have raised money. We are raising right now. I think what's demonstrates this even better is not so much what is the investors' reaction, which is, of course, everyone's interested, right? This is a really red hot area. But it's the customers. Oh my God, I've never experienced this. Literally 100% of the companies that we've pitched to in the last couple of months since we've launched this, everyone has said, wow, this is good. Yes, we want to proceed to the next step. The next step is either a rollout or a proof of concept or a pilot, or in the case of the larger institutions, like a further deeper evaluation. This is incredible. And this is why we know that the really sweet spot is that it's not just cybersecurity. What companies want is frictionless access for their users. Let's give them that. That is a business driver. Cybersecurity builds trust, and that's a really good thing. And if you can do this in a way that is so simple for the user, they don't have to install anything, they don't have to set anything up, they don't even have to be like 3 words to describe it. Scan to log in. That's only if you're on a workstation. If you're on a mobile, it's completely intuitive. You don't even need instructions. It's just going to happen. So this is game changing. Yeah, and this is why we're so excited. Yeah, big opportunity.
So the very last question, this is something that I always find absolutely fascinating. So you came up with something completely new. This is a brand new idea. What was your inspiration? What inspired you to do that?
Yeah, this is it's a series of 1,000 steps. We have a very strong innovation team. We argue, arm wrestle. I'll get an idea in my head. I'll pitch it to the guys. And we call it a crucible. It's fire and brimstone there, and we will argue and chew our ears off for weeks, and it distills and distills and distills until what you end up with is something that collapses down to being as hard as a diamond. And on that, you can build skyscrapers. And this is what we've been doing now for a decade. Our other products are really astonishingly good as well, but we're under-resourced. We need to raise the money. We're going to focus on just doing one thing and doing that really well. Silicon Valley, what you learn is to focus incredibly sharply and narrowly and make it simple, because that is what becomes the billion-dollar opportunity. That is the thing that actually kicks out through the stratosphere. So that's what we're doing. The innovation is a series of steps we've built continuously on the shoulders of what we've built before. And so the next obvious step is. And I'll just say there is a funny story, if we just got a second. I had this idea for this rolling around in my head for the last 3 or 4 years. Why can't we partner with one of the password managers? It's the things our customers kept on asking for. And I engineered my way into an event at the RSA Cybersecurity Conference here in San Francisco at the beginning of the year. And I actually organised, and I did meet the head of security for one of these really big password managers. And I thought, well, there I was in this rum bar with a glass of rum cocktail in my hand in front of this guy. Here's my chance. So I thought, okay, so here we go. So I said, look, you've got a problem. The moment you log my encrypted password from your database into my web form, it's no longer encrypted and it's clear text. So any JavaScript in the browser is going to intercept it instantly. And there's nothing you can do about it. But we've fixed that problem. He said, okay, how have you fixed that? And my world just lit up, because he absolutely validated what had been going on in my head for the last 3 years, that they can't address this. Their entire focus is on the end user's device. You can never solve it there. You have to solve it outside that, either with two-factor authentication, a second device, or you do it at the back-end server. And that was. And so I said, look, I'm not going to tell you. I'm giving you a card. We'll connect later. I walked out. I rang my team in Australia. I said, guys, this is what I want to do. And so for the next few weeks, my head of technology, Neil, and I were like two wheels on the end of an axle spinning independently. We'd check in each day, and we're at exactly the same point. Every day, we were both rolling up a path that was absolutely real. And it got sharper and sharper and clearer until we had built it. And then we needed to file the patent. We couldn't talk about it. And the launch was when we presented it on the 3rd of July at the Cybertech event in New York against a lineup of other passwordless solutions, and we won first place. That was 3 or 4 hours after we filed the patent. So, yeah, it was an exciting time. That was how it came about.
Thank you so very much for sharing all this. It's not only super exciting, but also very inspirational. So thank you so very much for that.
No worries.
I don't see other questions from our audience. So let me thank you very much again. It was an honor to get to know you, and I'm so glad that you found time to present it and participate in the Select Chicago event today.
Yes, yeah, no worries. And thanks so much for Select Chicago for this. So thank you, Justina.
Thank you.
Thank you, bye.
And I just jumped back in real quick before you guys sign off. And so I want to thank Graeme and Jaswina and Mike Moyer for coming in to do this event with us. And so it's been for us, it's the end of a really long day. We started at 7 a.m. Chicago time, and it's now 2 p.m. Chicago time. I'm seeing Jaswina's eyes get as big as saucers at how early we started today. But I think I saw if Mike Mertz still had last question. He had one quick question on that. See, and he's typing now. I want to get that in because what's also great with these, a lot of our groups is, who is your footy club? That is Michael Mertz's question. What is a footy club? I have no idea.
In Australia, well, he knows I'm Australian and we'll play Australian rules football. Yeah, it's got to be the Dockers from Fremantle. It's where I was born. Perth, Fremantle, Australia.
Well, actually, what's good too, he's saying go the Lions. Michael is on my steering committee, and he represents the city of Arlington Heights. And so last year at this time, he spent, I think, 6 weeks down in Australia going to a tennis tournament.
That's a nice way to spend time in Australia.
Yeah, and what's great too is with your service is when most of the municipalities have the requirement of logging in and having documentation as well. So I would look at that as a sub-market of moving in. And Jaswina, I don't know if you talked about your background at all, which is you are a focus with cybersecurity in international law between Poland and the United States. And you just got some award in Chicago for that. So I want to say a little bit about your background on that.
Okay. Thank you so very much for bringing it up. So I am an international corporate lawyer. I am mostly working with foreign companies. I am licensed both in the US as well as in Poland. So this is why European law is my strong background. And probably this is what led me, and this is what started my passion for data privacy and cybersecurity law. So I am very honored to be the chair of the Chicago Bar Association Cyber Law and Data Privacy Committee. And this is where my heart is.
Great. And so, yeah, I think, and what's fun is Mike's about 6 feet from me on this side. So it's a fun piece of cameras and being live. And I don't think he has any other questions today. So I think we're going to wrap for our third of 8 sessions. So we have 5 more days to go. I'm really excited about next week's is about corporate social responsibility. So we have an intensive from groups from China and Washington, D.C. speaking. And as we go later, we're going to have actually a large delegation from Poland coming in October 21. And I will get everybody information on that as we go. And I want to thank my crew today for getting up bright and early, getting downtown. Our next probably 3 weeks will be filmed in the Waukegan studio. And until then, I want to say have a great, wonderful day, and we look forward to helping you when we can.